Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back here with another video, and this is going to be another episode of collecting every LEGO Star Wars minifigure ever created. The goal of this series is to fill up my minifigure wall with all the LEGO Star Wars minifigures that I've created, so this will include rare minifigures, for example, the Cloud City Boba Fett, as well as the Chrome Gold C-3PO giveaway. This will not include any one-offs or rare earth mineral figures, however. So let's jump right into the figures. I picked up 8 this week. If you want to start off, we got this Skiff Luke Skywalker, and I was happy to get this figure. It's from the original Desert Skiff set, I believe. This was back in the day when LEGO, I guess, didn't really distinguish between this version with a black tunic and from the beginning of the film and then the end of the film when he doesn't have the gray over it. So this was the just Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. Now there's like 3 different versions. There's the one from the beginning with like the gray robes over this. There's the one from the end with his like black suit with flap up and flap down. You guys get the story. But yeah, so finally got the OG Skiff Luke Skywalker. This is a figure that I probably had all the elements to make, but they were all in other figures. It's honestly pretty easy to make this figure. All these parts are used in multiple sets, but it's nice to have them finally all in one configuration. Next figure I picked up is Obi-Wan with his hood up. I believe this is from the Gungan subset, the original Gungan sub. Obviously, he has the yellow toned skin. And I like this figure because, I don't know, it is relatively nostalgic for me. This is one of the first guys you play as in the first level of LEGO Star Wars, so I'm going to have a little bit of an affinity to this figure. One thing I found interesting is that they don't include the braid on the torso in this specific version of Obi-Wan, which I thought was kind of weird. Maybe their logic behind it is like this should actually be a robe that would cover the braid, but maybe it wouldn't actually cover the braid because the braid would be over the robe. Anyways, it's not a huge deal. But one of the things I did notice about this is the cape that I got from the seller has just like a bunch of gunk on it. Like it's quite dirty. It's in pretty good condition. It's not frayed like most of these old school capes would be, but it is not very clean. So I'm probably going to have to go back through at some point and buy up a bunch of new capes for a bunch of these figures to replace the frayed ones, or in this case, the dirty ones. Next up, we got Anakin Skywalker from Episode 2 with his cape. This figure was actually from the Tusken Raider Encounter set, and I like this figure because this was one of the ones in my childhood that I was just so desperately in love with, specifically because when I started collecting in 2005, Episode 2 figures like this were not on shelves, so I don't know, they were just kind of impossible for me to get at the time. I remember my first Brooklyn purchase ever was actually the Bounty Hunter Pursuit set because I wanted Episode 2 Anakin as well as Obi-Wan. So I do have the version of him without the cape, but this version with the cape is the reason I had to buy another one. Brick set distinguishes the two of them. So finally got the second boy in my collection, and I'm happy about it. I like this figure. It's a pretty good figure. Next up, we have Chewbacca in the original brown color. So this would have been in like the original Millennium Falcon, the original AT-ST set, and I think one other set. But I think I mentioned last time that I bought one of these from a seller, but they sent me basically him with brown headpiece and reddish brown torso and pants. That is not what I needed. I needed just the solid brown figure because I did not have him. So I finally do, and I'm happy about it. This makes the fact that I didn't get him in that last video a little bit better. I figured, why not just go ahead and buy him? It's not an extremely expensive, it's not an expensive figure at all, actually. So I'm glad to have him. Not much more to say about this figure other than that the new versions look so much better. Next up, we have yet another Clone Wars Anakin. There are a few versions of this guy made. This version in particular has dark brown arms. I believe this was only in that Sith Night Speeder set, so that's why I'm showing him off again. I think I have like at least 2 other versions of him, and I'm probably still missing one version of him. There's just a lot of versions of this Clone Wars Anakin figure, so I'm just another one to add to the collection. You guys know how I feel about those hideous Clone Wars faces. He looks like Michael Jackson. I do like the updated torso. I think the original Anakin didn't have this exact torso. This one's a little bit more detailed, I believe, and it only got better over time. Next up, we have the Endor Princess Leia from the Battle on Endor set, I believe from like 2009. And this was one of the figures I was kind of surprised I didn't have. I was convinced I had most, if not all, the iterations of Leia. Then I realized I'm missing this one, as well as like her yellow skin-toned slave Leia outfit. But this makes me feel good. I am that much closer to having all the Lego versions of Leia. Makes me very happy. And I actually like this figure quite a lot. This figure came out in '09, but I feel it really does hold up with the torso and like the back and front print on the torso. The head obviously can use a lot of work, specifically since she doesn't have pupils. But I don't know, this torso is actually really nice. I could see me using this in some sort of mock, outside of just having it on this Leia figure. I think the newest version of this figure is much better with like the actual poncho, but this is not bad at all. I think this may have also been the first time they used this hair mold for Leia, which was great. It's a wonderful hair mold. It's kind of overused at this point since they threw it on the Leia from Cloud City, but this is not a video for me to complain about us not getting an actual hair mold for Bespin Leia. Next up, we have General Grievous from the Clone Wars with 3 arms. Why does he have 3 arms, you ask? Well, the seller I bought this from, the original listing said it was complete, and I got a message from them saying that one of the arms was missing, so they knocked the price down quite a bit, and I was happy enough with that price to where I just decided I'll go ahead and buy the figure, and then I'll just find another one of these tan arms somewhere down the line. So actually we'll have to be cognizant of that when I'm making purchases. Maybe just check through and see if anyone has those tan arms. But I mean, I don't know. I like the new style of Grievous. I prefer the white version. It's, I think, clearly more accurate than this. This one's the tan Clone Wars version. But it is nice to have this figure. I believe he only came in his updated Grievous Starfighter. So I don't know. It's cool to fill in my collection with this guy, but I do think the white version is much more accurate than this guy. And the final figure we will look at is R3PO. This is from the 2011 Echo Base set. It was kind of an exclusive set, I believe. And this figure was not super cheap. I found him for $8. I thought that was actually a pretty good price for it. And I'm actually really excited to have this guy in my collection. Obviously, the newer, I guess, updated version of this would be the TC4 figure. I'm pretty sure they look exactly the same in the films, although TC4 doesn't actually show up in the films. Anyways, they would look pretty close to each other. It's cool to have this red protocol droid. I don't know, it looks kind of cool. That Echo Base set was one that I actually really wanted back in the day, and I just never ended up getting it, and I definitely regretted it for a long time, especially since for the longest time, that was the only set that came with the updated version of Leia's, Koth clothes. So we've obviously gotten plenty of versions of that figure at this point, but I'm glad to have this boy in my collection. Now let's go ahead and move to our group of figures that we're going to be placing on the wall today. We got quite a few of them. And this is the lineup we have today to put on the wall. You can see there are just a ton of figures here. A lot of these are actually from the most recent April wave of Star Wars sets. So we got some of the new Resistance guys. Also got the 20th anniversary figures. Got the Lando right here. Han's chilling right there as well. So I got those commemorative figures to add as well. And then of course we have the figures that I just bought to add to the wall as well. So this is probably the most amount of figures I've had to add to my wall. I believe there's a few of these that I actually took off the wall that I had to add back to it, like the AT-RT pilot, the original one from 2005. I believe I took him off to actually compare to the newest set, but nonetheless, we got some figures to put on the wall, so let's not wait any longer. Let's go ahead and jump to the time lapse. Now it looks like the day that I have feared for so long has finally come. I have reached the bottom of the wall. I wasn't even able to place all the figures that I had planned to place in this episode because this is where it ended. Obviously, I have a little bit of space below there, so I may have to clear off a lot of this extra stuff that I have in order to incorporate the new figures, but this raises a big problem that I've been talking about for the past few weeks, and that's, what the heck am I going to do? Got a lot of space to fill, especially, we got episode 9 dropping later this year, which of course is going to mean at least 20, 30 new figures, at least. And, of course we have more sets than that coming out, so I got some stuff to figure out in regards to this wall, but outside of that's a problem I can worry about a little bit later. We can talk about some of the minifigures that actually did get added this week. So, got the Boba Fett from the original Slave 1 added. I actually had that figure before, but I was missing an arm, so I just swapped them out altogether. This is a complete Boba. Finally, got that brown Chewbacca over there. Got the Skiff Luke placed right here. I'm trying to think what other figures. Got the pit droid right there. Got Anakin with his robe. I'm really only going to show off a lot of the top area because, like I've mentioned before, that's really my main focus, getting the top area to not look so empty compared to the bottom, which I have most, if not all, those figures. So I'm happy with the progress I've made. I think I got 8 new figures, and I'm pretty sure all of them are actually probably from definitely within the top half, but maybe even the top third. So that makes me really happy. I'm starting to pay even more for my early mistake, which was putting basically these 2 figures right next to each other and not accounting for the 4 figures between them, which means that I'm just kind of stuck still just stuffing figures in there. At some point, I will actually make the shift to the wall, probably when I try to accommodate more spaces for figures. My goal is to basically try to complete this wall and be caught up with all the new figures at some point. At that point, I guess I'll feel better about maybe looking into more options on extending it. But it's definitely a difficult process trying to collect all the figures up top while also keeping up with the exponentially growing figures down at the bottom. So this is definitely not an easy task, but I'm working on it week by week, day by day, purchasing new figures, filling in a lot of those holes, and it'll eventually come together, I think. But that's really all I got for you guys this week. I was a little disappointed that I left a few figures here on my palette. Actually, quite a few of them are figures that aren't even at the bottom, but just ones that I kind of glanced over, like this guy. That's one that I took off. The new Shadow Trooper, however, is one that currently has no available space on the wall. So between this episode and the next one, I will definitely figure out at least a short-term solution to extending the wall to accommodate a lot of the newer figures, and then also shifting those figures to accommodate for the ones that I didn't accommodate for before. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the series. It has been quite the journey for me, and I am glad to continue it. I know a lot of people have actually been asking, how can they maybe help contribute to the wall. So I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go on my brick set, and I'm actually going to compile some sort of file of images of all the figures that I'm missing, and then I'll post that in a link somewhere in the description, or maybe in the pinned comment on this video, and then you guys can check it out. If you have some figures you want to contribute, we can talk it through, and we'll just see what happens from there. But that's going to finish it up, guys. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead and hit the like button to support the video, smash that subscribe button to support the channel, and I will be back again very soon.